So like in a restaurant, we're going to prepare a little bit of what we call mise en place. So mise en place is like preparation in advance. So you can put it aside and it will be ready when you need it. It literally means to get things in place, to get things ready. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the feuillatine, so a component of the dessert, which is basically like a crunchy biscuit that's got a little bit of like hazelnut through it. So there's 3 ingredients for this. Lovely dark chocolate. This is called feuillatine, pailleté feuillatine. So it's like it's basically like a dried crepe biscuit that's been crushed. Imagine cornflakes, but something a little bit finer. And this is a praline paste, so it's a paste of roasted hazelnuts. And what we're going to do is just bring this pot of water to the boil. So you're making something called a bain-marie, which is what we're going to use to melt the chocolate. I'm going to put a bowl over the water and pour the chocolate into the bowl. And we're just going to let that melt. I'm also going to add the praline paste. Praline paste is one of my all-time favorite ingredients to use in a dessert, and the biscuits just add a lovely crunchy texture and obviously the richness as well from the chocolate. So using my little spatula here, I'm just going to turn the heat down. We're just going to let the chocolate melt with the praline. We'll let that sit for about 30 seconds to 1 minute so that it's really nice and melted. Then we're just going to fold in the biscuits, so you've got like a crunchy paste, and we're going to put that onto this tray so that once it cools down, it's going to set into these lovely hazelnut clusters. Okay, so the chocolate's nearly melted here. Just give that a nice stir. Shouldn't take more than 2 to 3 minutes because we're not doing any big quantities. Just hurry it along with the spatula. And this is basically going to go on top of your chocolate pudding, so it's going to add the texture, the crunch and the richness to the dessert. So there we go, you can see that's nearly melted. Now we just add the feuillatine and then remove this from the heat. And just, if you can see, just going to fold it through. And I'm just going to season it with a little pinch of salt. And then just put it onto this tray. Spread it out a little bit. And we're going to let that cool. And then once it's cool, we're going to break it into little clusters.
First things first, the ribeye. The ribeye is going to come vac packed. Now when it does, you might notice there's a little bit of sort of blood in the pack. Anyway, first of all, the first thing you want to do is open the ribeye up. There's 2 reasons for this. You want to let it breathe and you want to let it get to room temperature. Both very important things. So first of all, take it out of the packet, put it onto kitchen paper and just dry it both sides quickly, just for 10 seconds each side, and then put it onto a plate just like this. Now leave that out until we need to cook it. Now the reason is, as you can see, this one's getting nice and dry. So the drier it is, the more it roasts, the easier it roasts and the better it roasts in the pan. And if it's room temperature, it means that the middle cooks at the same time and temperature as the rest of the beef. If it's fridge cold, once you cook it, you'll think it's cooked and you'll cut it open, it'll be raw in the middle. So very important, keep it out from the start. Okay, so next we're going to do the Boulangere potatoes. First things first is you want to get your onions and we're going to slice them and cook them. Now you might notice there's a pan there. I've had that on for about 3 minutes, just on a medium heat. So, onions first. Just top and tail your onions and cut it through the root down the middle. Throw them away. Now, just peel these. You can either use your hand or a knife. I'd find it easier if you just take one layer off and it comes off nice and easy. Then you want to just slice these as thinly as possible. So I'm just going to use a mandolin. Now you can choose a knife. It's just going to take you a bit longer, and this helps you get super, super fine. Just be careful if you're using your, obviously your knife. So throughout my career, I've worked with some fantastic chefs in the UK. Tom Aiken's been my main mentor, as I worked for him for 4 years, and I felt like I really sort of learnt how to cook working for Tom. So you just want to keep slicing these. I'll show you how to slice one using a knife. So you want the root away from the knife, use your chopper, and just slice very thinly, running it on your finger, away from yourself. You might cry like I am a little bit now, because they're really strong onions. When you get to that last bit, just slice it up as thinly and as carefully as you can. Don't worry if you don't get it a bit perfect, because to be honest, once they're all cooked down, it's not going to matter too much. It just makes your life a little bit easier. If there's any trim bits left from when you use the mandolin, just slice them down until they're nice and thin. Now, once that's sliced, nice bit of vegetable oil in the pan, and then your onions in. That's what you want to hear. You want to hear that nice sizzle. The very last drop in there. Now you want a bit of nice Maldon salt. Black pepper. I'm just going to put 2 knobs of butter in there. Now I'm just going to turn this up to a sort of medium-high heat. What we're trying to do here is wait until the first layer on the bottom colour, and then we're going to move them and just keep caramelise those onions on a medium heat. So once you've given their first stir, put the lid on the pan and then leave them be, and then we'll go on to making the potato boulangere. So to do that, get your potatoes with peeler, just peel the skin off, making sure you get all the skin off. I find if you use the peeler from the top to bottom of the potato, it's a lot safer because you can get your hand out of the way, and it's a lot quicker and more efficient. And then you do the top and the bottom after. So after working for Tom, I then opened up Typing Room as the executive chef. That was in Bethnal Green, so it's in the Town Hall Hotel, beautiful building. In Bethnal Green, that was my first head chef's role as such. And then I moved out of there and went to the countryside to open up a restaurant called Penson's, where we won a Michelin star. So, as I said, you've got to kind of attend to this as you're doing other stuff, because what you want it to lightly caramelise, but you don't want it to burn. So we're looking for a bit of colour in here, like a nice golden brown colour, but you don't want it to catch on the bottom. So just keep every now and then stirring it and putting the lid back on, and then attend back to your potatoes. I think the biggest sort of learning curve from being a head chef is like the difference between when you're a young chef, you just got one section to look after. You're on the meat section or the fish section or the larder, so that you do the starters. Head chef, you're managing multiple people, and it's just another level of like organisation. So you learn that before you're a head chef, but ultimately when you're a head chef, you've got to be very organised. Have a look at your onions. You just want to nice and softened, nice little bit of colour. Keep the lid back on. Now you've peeled your potatoes, don't worry about washing them. Unless they're really dirty, then give them a wash, but not to worry otherwise. Now again, you can slice these using a knife. If it was to do that, what you want to do is just cut the lengthwise, not this side. Just cut one end off, just so you get a flat surface. You want to actually do that on all of them, even if you're using the mandolin or using a knife. And then just discard the end pieces. Then with your mandolin, you want to make sure it's not too thick, not too thin. I'll show you what the sort of thickness we're looking for. That's it. So just like, what is it, a few millimeters basically. Now the reason for that, if it's too thin, they're just going to cook and they're going to go mushy. If they're too thick, the time I'm telling you how to cook it is going to take longer, which is not an issue. You just want to reduce your cooking time down to as little as possible. Anyway, using the mandolin, make sure your hands are out of the way, so you kind of arch them up like that. Firm pressure, and then just slice. And be confident, but don't be cocky. If the potato is a little bit too wide for the mandolin, just trim an end off and go again. Keep checking your potato, because sometimes the mandolin can move. If it does, just adjust it to the right thickness again. And after this potato, we're going to check the onions again. So you're constantly checking them. Give them a nice little stir. Just really carefully right at the end, and discard that last bit. Keep all these potatoes aside. Now I'm just going to turn this down a little bit. It's just started to catch on the bottom, which is not an issue. Just add in a knob of butter and a touch of more oil. And just reduce the heat a little bit. Lovely. Lid back on. The reason for the lid is that there's lots of steam being created in that pan. If you don't have the lid, the steam then just evaporates and disappears. If you put the lid on, it kind of goes back into it. So it's not just roasting, it's steaming and roasting. That's a really nice way of cooking onions. Anyway, keep slicing your potatoes. Obviously, if you're not used to doing this, I would go a touch slower than this. I've seen many accidents with these. Just be patient and slow. Then if you're using a knife, the flat side that you cut onto the board so it's not wobbling about. Very nice trick that. Again, slice the end off and then just take time. Point the knife slightly away from you rather than in, then it's never going to cut you and you're going to get nice thin pieces. If you get bits like that break, don't worry about it. Like you're definitely still going to use them. Don't throw them away, keep them. Anyway, that's how you do it with a knife. I'm going to finish that on the mandolin. Lovely. So this has been cooking for about 10 minutes. Once you sort of get to this sort of colour, you want to get 3 cloves of garlic. Knife on it, just smash it down. Not all the way so it smashes, but just so it crushes. And what it does, it just releases the skin off the bulb. And then you just want to, then you can peel the skin off. We can throw that skin away. That's it, lovely. Throw the skin away. And then the root bit just cut off, making sure there's no skin or no root. Then just very easily, just slice your garlic as thinly as possible. It doesn't have to be whole. If it breaks up, that's absolutely perfect. Just watch your fingers. Just as thin as you can go. Them in there. Then what you want to do, you want to get a nice pinch of mixed herbs and put them in at the same time. Give that a good stir. And the lid back on. And just continue to cook them. So these onions have been cooking for about 12 minutes now. Now, if you're starting to notice that you get this caramelisation that's not leaving the bottom of the pan and sticking to the onions, and the pan's getting a bit dry and then looking a bit too dark, a little trick is just to get yourself a little bit of cold water, or warm water, doesn't really matter, just water. Just put a touch in there. Just so you're controlling the heat of the pan. And what you'll notice, if you put the lid back on and leave it for a minute or two, that water will make all that lovely flavouring and that stuff that's stuck to the bottom come off and back into the onions. And then it will just keep doing that, and it adds a bit more steam to it, and it just cooks a little bit nicer. Yeah, nice little trick anyway. So while that's cooking, we're now going to start to layer this potato. So basically the layers are going to be 1 layer of potato, 1 layer of onions, a tiny bit of chicken stock. And then you can repeat that process basically until we're near the top. And with each process, every time you put a layer of potato on top of the onion, you push down as hard as you can. Just nicely and firmly, not too hard, but firmly. Anyway, so we're going to start with the onions, potatoes, sorry. So, potato-wise, these have worked out perfectly for me because they're the perfect size of the bottom of the dish. So I'm just going to overlap them by half. When I say by half, I mean like that. So not like that. Not like that, half. Keep doing that until the bottom is covered. And then once the onions are ready, I'll show you how to do the onions. So the classical names for these onions they're basically called lyonnaise onions. That's a French term. As you know, most cooking terms are French. So lyonnaise, just slowly cooked onions with garlic and thyme basically, but we've just used mixed herb on this occasion. So in terms of the chicken stock, we're using a brand called True Foods, and this is white chicken stock, so you get white and brown. We're using white because I just find it's a lot lighter for this dish. So just so you're aware, True Foods, as a chef, as a Michelin star chef, we use this in the restaurant because making stocks is very time consuming. I mean, I love making stocks. It's one of those things, the first things that I learned how to make. But making them on a regular occasion in a small kitchen can sometimes be a little bit difficult. So we buy them in sometimes. And I wouldn't use any other brand but True Foods. So cut that open, and you want to put that into a jug just to make it easier for when you're pouring it in on each layer. If you don't have a jug, you could just cut the pouch open and just use it like that. But I find a jug's a little bit easier. Time to check these onions. Lovely. I reckon we're about 4 minutes away on these because you can start to see that they are nice and soft and cooked. Basically, the softer and the longer you cook these, the sweeter and more delicious they become, which means then you end up with a more delicious product. So if you want to take your time and cook these for as long, you could cook them for half an hour nice and slow and they'll be absolutely beautiful. Or you can do them as we're doing them, 15 minutes, say 15, 20 minutes, and they'll be absolutely fine too. But just make sure they're nice and soft and cooked. Okay, now these have been cooking for about 20 minutes, these onions. Now the last bit, you see all this sediment on the bottom, just get a touch of, I've just turned this off now, touch of chicken stock, just a touch, and then give it a nice mix, and we'll deglaze most of that off. All that on the bottom of the pan is flavour. As long as it's not black and burnt, that's flavour. And honestly, the smell that's coming from these is amazing. You get this garlicky, herby, roasted sweet onion, yeah, it's delicious. Just mix that really well. Then just to make it easier, because you're going to need this pan for the rest of the menu, just transfer this to a little bowl. And then just get your partner or a family member or whoever you live with to wash up for you. I mean, if they're nice enough to do that for you. Then we're going to start layering this up. So you just want to take a spoon. So you've got your layer of potatoes, and then you just want to take your onions, And just think, these are all the onions you have, all right? So when you put them in on each layer, just bear that in mind, because to be honest, it doesn't matter how much you put on each layer, because imagine this is going to be split into two, right? So you basically got half each. So once you dig down, that half's going to be yours, that half's going to be yours. You're going to get roughly the same amount anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But the point I'm trying to make is don't go heavy on each layer, because you're going to run out, and you want it to be as even as possible. You're looking for about that much. You might find out you need less as you go. Then touch of chicken stock, just literally a touch like that, and then go again. Push it down with your hands. Just try to make sure that you're getting the potatoes right into the edges and the corners. And if you have to go the other way, like this, that's absolutely fine. So I'm going to do the other way next time, actually, just to show you. Again, onions. I find this quite therapeutic and fun. Little building process. You don't have to spend too much time messing about with it. This is a real classic French dish. Really nice with beef, really nice with lamb. So it's quite universal once you learn this. So again, touch of stock. So what the stock is going to do, guys, just so you know, is just going to help it cook. Right, so I'm going the other way with potatoes. The reason for that is just to get the ends into the corner of these dishes. Because you don't want that to be like just empty and hollow, basically. So yeah, keep going. Give that a push down. So you're just getting basically all the air out and compacting it in, so you can get as much flavour and as much potato, as much onion in there as possible. So for me, when I design dishes, it's mainly about, well, it's pretty much all about seasonality. So I focus my season on the British seasons. I obviously use products from abroad, you know, like lemons and, you know, fruits and whatever else. But, you know, the main produce we use is in like fish, meat, vegetables. We always try and focus on the British seasons. So we basically write the menus based on what our, you know, we've got a close relationship with all our suppliers. We just talk to the suppliers and they tell us what is in peak season at the moment and what isn't. And we don't use anything that isn't. So we just use the stuff that is. So I think what got us a start at Penson's was, well, we just focused on the ingredients. We didn't fuss about. We just cooked delicious seasonal ingredients to the best of our abilities. We didn't mess around with them too much. We didn't put fancy froths and foams and too much sort of science behind the cooking. It was just all good, solid techniques and solid, tasty ingredients. And I think, you know, I think that speaks volumes. And I think most people should do that. You know, at home, just cook seasonal food and just cook it to the best of your ability. So basically, I've just used all of the onion up. Well, there's a little bit left. So and I've still got, as you can see, about, you know, nearly an inch on top. So basically you want to take it to about sort of here. You want to leave a little bit just so we can get the parmesan and everything else on there later. So once you get to this stage, just start giving everything a little bit of a season. A little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. We've got about two or three layers left to go. I've got no onions, so it doesn't matter, because as I said, what I said earlier, you're still going to get it as you sort of scoop your spoon down there later. So keep layering up. Remember to push quite firmly. Then a bit of salt. You can use Maldon or fine, it doesn't really matter. Pepper. Again, a little bit of stock. Remember, just a little bit of stock each time, just to get it in all the middle of the layers. If you come across some really thick pieces where you sliced them, as you can see, we've got enough potato here, so just don't use the really thick ones if you don't have to. If you do have to, it doesn't matter, but if you've got nicer ones, use them first. So I'm gonna make this our last layer. So, that's it, just give it a nice firm press. I'm just going to pour on a little bit more stock. Like that. So if you don't use it all, it doesn't matter. I'd probably leave a little bit, otherwise it might become too wet, and we can always add more later if we need to. So any remaining potato, just put it into a bowl, and you can use that for something else if you want. Mashed potato, or you can make a second one of these for the day after. Okay, now what you want to do, you want to get your tin foil, a piece that's going to cover the top easily. Just nice and tight so steam can't escape, because again the steam cooks this potato. So just put that in there, close the oven, and we're going to leave that in there for around about an hour.
So here we go, guys. We're on to the starter. It's gonna need a little prep from you guys so we can put it aside and set. What we have is our white crab meat, some avocados, a chili, some chervil, we got sriracha mayo, and some salt with olive oil. That's it. So I'm gonna start off with the chili. Again, slicing our chili down in half, removing the seeds. These cayenne chilies, they're larger, they're not as spicy, so it's lovely to have into your little crab mix here. You got your chilies like that. Let's just get it into some little strips. So you make julienne, which is strips, little slices, about like matchstick size, just like that. And we will then cut across to make a dice, or as we call it, a brunoise. Very small. What you want to do is put your crab meat into a large bowl. We're gonna drizzle that with a little bit of olive oil, just a little bit. Get our diced chilies inside. Got a little plush of fresh chervil here. Just gonna give that a little chop. Not too small, you're just slightly bruising it up. Rustic like that. Put that inside. Give that a little mix around. Here we have our sriracha mayo, which we're going to provide to you. Cut a small piece off of the mayo so you can control how much you're going to put inside. Again, this is totally up to your taste and your flavors, but this is a wonderful little sauce here. It's going to do wonders. So just drizzle some of that over your crab. And you don't want to make it that the crab gets too wet and be running. We want it to be still quite firm, but also have the flavor. So as you can see, it's lovely. Just a little bit more. And we're gonna save some for later as well. You want to give that a little taste. Nice. We're going to finish that with a tiny squeeze of lemon juice and we're done. So here we go. So next you want to spread out some cling film onto a flat surface next to your chopping board. Drizzle the cling film with a little bit of olive oil. Just spread it all over. Nice. Take your avocado. Again, cut it in half. Move the avocado around. Twist it. Remove. Give a little tap. Twist. It's out. Now you want to take a spoon and really gently go in to behind the skin and the avocado, moving around to get as much of the avocado out as possible while staying whole. Turn it over. Done. So there you have it. You got your avocado. Just make sure it's nice and dryish. And now you want to take your time. This is really simple dish to put together. It only takes a little bit more effort within your slicing of your avocados. You want to get them nice and thin and keep everything as close as possible together. So we're going to go lengthways first of the avocado, down the oval side. And you're just going to keep those slices together, but you're going to go very close to each other. Take your time. So you're really watching, because what you want when the avocado is really nice and thin, you're going to sprinkle it with a bit of salt to help to make it more malleable for when we're going to roll over, which we're going to encase our crab meat in the center of the avocado. So really just take your time and make some beautiful long slices, very thin if you can, please. So there you go. Push it down. We're gonna put a little bit of salt on top of it here, a little bit of salt on the olive oil on the cling film. So that's the top side. And what we want to do is turn the avocado so you got the inside facing up. And then very gently keep them spread across like you're fanning it out. Nice, just a tiny pinch more salt. Like I said, this helps to break down the avocado, and the thinner it is, it's easier for us to make the roll. Just gonna wash my hands. Next, you're gonna take your crab mix. You're gonna take a couple spoons directly down the center where you see that cavity is, where you remove the seed from. So we're going to go down alongside the center of there, keeping it in a little pile. That's as much as you need. So that's like 2 spoons. Next, guys, keep your avocado next to you, down to the end of your cling film. And what you're gonna do is start to roll. So you're gonna keep it. Just go straight over. Don't worry if the crab meat drops at the bottom. So as long as we got the avocado on top. So now you're gonna be able to see the fanning and how thin you went with the avocado. And this, now you're gonna start to shape it with your fingers, keeping the majority of the crab meat in the center of the cannelloni for later on, because we're going to tie the ends and keep it nice and compact. So I can see it. Keep your extra cling film in front of you, so we're not tucking under the cling film, and when we cut, we don't want to eat inside the cling film. So here we go. Just tucking. I'm looking at it. I'm shaping it, keeping it narrow, squeezing it in, bringing it down, squeezing it in. As you can see, I have like a little cannelloni, a cylinder shape. It's nice. I've ever so often keep pressing the edges. Now I'm going to make my first roll. So I'm going to roll over. And I'm gonna roll over again. As you can see, the crab is encased into the avocado. Roll over again. And we're gonna do that about 4 times. And once you're rolling, I want you know, you can see the cling film, to know when it's becoming tight, you can see the cling film starting to get shiny. So you're gonna press it in. And a good little trick is here, at that stage, is just poke it with a sharp knife or a toothpick, just to let that excess air escape through these holes. So it's gonna be nice and thick. Sometimes you're gonna see a little bit of juices coming up as well. That's totally fine. So now I can see it's tight, the juices is coming up to the top. I'm gonna spread that over one more time, another time, and I'm done. Cut your cling film. Now, you should have something like this. From one side first, just tighten it. Make a little knot. Pull it tight. Now at the next end, squeeze it in as much as possible. And again, you're gonna make another knot, sorry. So there you go. Cut your edges off of cling film. We're gonna set that in the fridge to set up. I'm gonna do one more. So here we're going again now, guys. What we're doing is removing our avocado from the skin. Take your time with the back of a spoon. Turn it over. Put the cling film at the edge of your table. Keep it nice and flat. Drizzle your cling film with a bit of olive oil and a little bit of molding sea salt. And again, we're using this salt and olive oil, so it helps to break down the avocado so you're able to make it a bit more pliable. But what's really important is that we slice the avocado very thinly. You got your avocado. We're slicing it lengthways, guys, not that way, because we want the most length of it. So we're going down very slowly. Take your time. This is the most tricky part. It's just thinly slices of avocado, really. So there you go. Once you've done that, you want to press it down so it's kind of fanning out. You're going to lift up your avocado, which you're going to have something like this, and just turn it over to the center part where you can see where you remove that seed for the little cavity. Put it down. Fan it out a little bit more. So it's about the size of your hand when you fan it down. Nice and thin. And again, just a little drizzle of molding sea salt. And then straight away you're going to go in with your crab mix from earlier, down the center of the cavity. Okay, so now we have our fan avocado. You're bringing it down close to you. You can see I have a little pile here of the crab meat. Make sure it's fan. And the first step is to just hold your cling film up. Keeping your crab meat in the center, just giving a big old quick roll down, leaving your cling film of the tips in front of you so it doesn't tuck under the avocado. And then you're gonna start to bring the avocado back, squeezing it in, keeping that cylinder shape, which you can control now. And then we're gonna roll it over. Roll it over. And ever so lightly pressing the sides down, squeezing it back in. take a knife or a toothpick and give it just a couple of holes, like 4 little holes, just so you can get the excess air on the inside to release, so it doesn't stay trapped, and you'll be able to get it a little bit tighter. There you go. Cut your clean film. If you don't want to tie a knot, simply just make it very tight like this. Fold one end under, fold another end under, as long as you have a shape that is similar to this. So this is just by folding 2 edges under, and this one is with tying 2 edges. This might be easier to do. See how you're comfortable, but we just need to have a nice uniform cylinder of avocado encasing your crab meat. I'm going to put these in the fridge to set up a bit.
We're now going to focus on the Hispi cabbage and the carrots for the main course. Now, you might think that sounds a bit backwards, but these jobs, what I love about this main course is it's all kind of prep heavy, but it's all just going to sit there, and then once you finish the starter, we're then just going to whack it all into the oven, concentrate on the beef, cook the beef, you digest your starter, it all comes out, we carve it, we plate it, and then you sit down and eat. So, as I said, carrots. Now with the carrots, just trim the tops off. Now, you can use these for pestos, wash them well, you know, little pestos or whatever you want really. Little salads, you can toss them through salads, they're lovely. So just leave that little top bit on. Leave just the little tiny stringy bits, just cut them off. Then just give them a good wash. Now, once you've washed them, just dry them as well as you can, just on a kitchen paper. Now, with these carrots, we are not going to peel them. So, you might think that's a bit strange, but just make sure you do wash them well, so you're not eating clumps of mud or anything like that. So, and you want to, just so you know, I've had these pans on for about 5 minutes. They've been on sort of medium heat. So, frying pan, you want to make sure your carrots do fit in the pan. So, veg oil. Nice drizzle of that. 1 knob of butter. I'm just going to turn this up to like a medium-high heat. So instead of a medium heat, it's a medium-high heat. Once that butter goes nice golden brown and sort of stops bubbling, I'll show you what I mean. We're going to put the carrots in. So that you can hear that sizzle. When it stops, put your carrots in. Nice seasoning of fine salt. Black pepper. Now, once they're in, turn this down to a medium heat. So this is number 6 out of 10 on this induction, just to give you an idea. Now, what you want to do is you want to colour that. What we're going to do is we're just going to colour them bit by bit and keep turning them. So once that bit that's touching the pan colours, we're going to turn them, turn them, turn them. We might have to add a little bit more butter in there just to regulate the heat slightly. Maybe turn this up and down a touch. But basically, we just want to colour these all the way around golden brown. And then we're going to put them into tin foil, cover them with tin foil as well. And then we're just going to roast them after the starter. And then you just cut them down the middle. They're absolutely stunning. So I'll show you what I mean by which kind of colour we're looking for. So just start them off. And we're just going to keep turning them until they're nice golden brown. Now we're going to go on to our cabbage. Here you have a pan. Now with this pan for the cabbage, it has to have a lid. Now to cook the cabbage, all we need is the cabbage, the oil, the butter, and the other packet of the chicken stock you have. So just put the chicken stock into the jug with the remaining from the Boulangere potato. Enough. Put that to one side, and you want to grab your cabbage. So you have the root here, and you have the pointy tip here. You want the root nice and straight, centered, so it's like that. Long knife, go through the root, and with one swift motion, cut it directly in half, so you get this beautiful cabbage like that. Remember, we're doing 2 jobs at once here, so just check the carrots as well. Okay, now this pan's quite a nice hot pan, not too hot that the oil's burning. A little bit of smoke's fine, but you don't want it to burn. So this one is just oil. So this is on number 7, just so you know, out of 10. Now, flat side down into the pan. You want to hear that noise. Once it's in, add 1 knob of butter. Just keep your cabbage flat on the pan with your hands, just move them around. And you want to get some fine salt. Just fine salt for the cabbage. We're not going to put any black pepper. Now you can see the pan needs a touch more oil or butter because it's a little bit dry. I'm just going to turn this up a touch. Put 1 more knob of butter in there and a little splash of oil. What we're looking for with the cabbage, again, is a lovely flat golden brown colour on the bottom, on this flat side. So where you can see it starting to colour here, we just want it coloured all the way in here. The reason why you're moving the pan is you're basically just regulating the heat and making sure that the butter and the oil goes underneath the cabbage evenly. Now here, the butter's starting to go a little bit too dark, so to regulate the heat, a touch of butter. And that kind of cools the pan down just a touch so it doesn't burn. And as you can see, we're looking for this colour here, this lovely caramelised colour all the way around. And what that does, it just, because we haven't peeled the carrots, what that does, it kind of like breaks down the skin so it's lovely and edible. So every now and then, just keep checking your cabbage. We want these really nice and dark golden brown. Touch more oil. So the cabbage pan is a little bit hotter than the carrot pan. Now it's nice to do this together because you're doing 2 jobs at once, but you have got to kind of concentrate on looking after on 2 things at once though, so you have got to concentrate. So if it's not colouring quick enough, turn it up, nice high heat. So I've just turned mine up because I just want to get a darker colour. What you want to do is get a colour on the cabbage without cooking it all the way through, because what we're going to do is add some of this chicken stock to it. So once these are golden brown, we're going to add the chicken stock in here. Sorry, I'm just turning these. And then we're going to put the lid on, and then we're going to turn it down. And then basically we're just going to gently cook it until the cabbage cooks. And the way I check the cabbage is cooked is I put this or your paper clip that we've unravelled through the thickest part, and it should just go through. You shouldn't have too much resistance, but it also shouldn't just go through with complete ease, otherwise it's slightly overcooked. So I'm just going to turn these off, just pull them off while I just show you this. So the cabbage, I'm just going to put it on the board because it's a little bit hot, but can you see that lovely colour? That's what you're looking for. Now, they're both like that. This is high heat, remember. You've got to work fast. Chicken stock in. So that kind of much. Lid on, onto the heat, turn it down. When I say turn it down, I'm going to go number 3 out of 10 on here. Put the carrots back on, and then you can tend to them. So these carrots are nearly ready. They're nearly coloured all the way around. You'll find that some carrots are not perfectly straight and they've got a little bump in the middle. That side might not colour. It doesn't matter. Just colour it as best as you can. Golden brown all the way. And then what you want to do is just want to take them out onto a small roasting tray. Lovely. Then just put that pan to one side. We're going to throw away that butter. In fact, let's keep a little bit of the butter. That's a lovely bit of flavour in there. Just a little bit over the carrots. And what that will do, it will help just sort of moisten it up in the oven. Now, mixed herbs sprinkled on top. Nice generous pinch. And then just give them a nice roll in those herbs. And trust me, these later will be lovely. A little bit more. Yep. Touch more salt. Leave them on the tray like that. And then just tin foil on this tray. Don't forget, while you're doing this, the cabbage is still cooking. It's on number 3, sorry. Nice low heat. So putting carrots to one side and we'll stick them in the oven later. And now we just want to check the cabbage. So lid off. Be careful with the steam when you open it, it can burn you. Now the thickest part is here, where the root is. You just want to go. It's resisting a touch. So I'm putting it back on, giving it another minute or two. I'm going to turn up to number 4 now. Right, so now I think that's it for the cabbage. Now, just check. You can give it a bit of a squeeze. You can see, look, it's soft, but it's not too soft and it's not too hard. The reason you want it to be what we call al dente. Al dente means with a bite. So these have got a slight resistance. So now I'm going to put the lid on and pull that off the heat and leave it. And while we carry on with the other stuff for the starter, that's just going to gently, lightly carry on cooking and braising, and it will go perfectly cooked rather than being too soft or too hard. So just leave that on the side and we'll continue on with the next thing.
So here we go, guys. It's plating up time. The moment of truth. Just take a knife and slightly cut away the end of your cling film, and you're going to use and just slightly pull that off, and what you end up with is that lovely cannelloni right here. So here we go, guys. You're going to take that sriracha mayo and just put some on the middle. Nice little dollop. Little tap, and then you're going to take a knife or a fish slice, just go under, be very gentle, and sliding that off onto your plate. Next, get your wasabi topico, and we're just gonna, a topico is a lumpfish roll, and they come in various colors. This is a wasabi tainted flavor. Very nice, they're very crispy. You find it in Japanese cuisine. They give you a nice little sharp texture of a pop in your mouth. So I'm just gonna get it over the top there, quite generous, you can say. And then next, we got some chive flowers here, which is very similar again to garlic flowers. You're gonna get a selection, so you guys can choose and play this up as you feel fit. You just give it a bit of a blow if you get these ones, just to open up the petals a little bit. And I'm just literally gonna drop them on very nicely. Pick the stalk off a bit, actually. So this looks like good. 3, I'm gonna put 3. And that just helps to open the petals a little bit of air. And with our chervil that we picked earlier, in your little desirable bunches. So there you have it, my crab roll with avocado, sriracha mayo, and wasabi topico.
It's time to take the cabbage out of the pan. The way you do that, just get a small spatula or something like that and just turn it upside down into just a nice dish really. Could be a plate if you don't have a dish like this, but you just want to do that. Now you want to strain this sauce because you kind of might want to use this sauce later just to sort of redress the cabbage or pour over the beef or the carrots. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that sauce is delicious. Don't throw it away. So just keep that. We're going to reduce it down in a bit later and use that to glaze the carrots. So now that you finished your starter, you probably would have noticed while you're eating it that the timer went off for your Boulangere potatoes. So mine did as well, so I've already took that out. So now let's just recap on the main course. You have your Boulangere potatoes just sitting there. You have your beef out at room temperature. You have your cabbage braised ready. You have the juice from the cabbage. And then you have your carrots that you've roasted off in the pan. Now, first job, get them carrots into the oven. Now, turn on your pan for your beef. So what you want, a nice medium high heat. So I'm going to go around about 7. And while that's heating up, I'm going to show you how to prepare the cabbage. Now, I know it's already cooked, but I'm just going to show you a little trick. So you've got this lovely braised cabbage. Now you could just serve it on a plate like that, you know, and eat it like that. It's perfectly delicious. But the thing is, it has this root. Now, some people might find that they don't want to eat that root. And also, if you want a plate and be a little bit more with a little bit more finesse, I'll teach you how to do something. So lay the cabbage down the bottom, on your board, sorry, so the root is pointing up. Then with your knife, just at an angle, slice the root out. Then you'll see all these lovely layers. What you want to do is then turn it back over to the outside and just peel off one layer. Reason for that is just it's a bit brown and scorched. So we'll just discard that. But as I said, you don't have to do this. It's just if you want to be a little bit more, for it to be a bit more pretty on the plate, basically. So I just took the tiny bit of the middle bit out. Then try to roll it. If you can't roll it because it's a bit thick, just cut a touch more of the base off. Just a touch more of that thick root off. Then just carefully, just turn this bit over, pull it in, tuck it in a bit, roll it. And then as you get to the end, just trim that end bit off. And then just place that there. Take your second piece and do the same to that. So, cut the core out at an angle. Turn the whole piece over carefully. Just make sure it doesn't all fall apart as you turn it over. Turn it back over. Take just the heart, the sort of middle bit out. Trim a little bit more off if you have to. And then, again, just tuck it in, roll it nice and tight. Cut away that last piece there. Then get both pieces together and then carefully trim the end piece with your knife. Just turn them around carefully. Trim the end piece again. Now, I wouldn't throw any of that away. I'd keep that. Little Scooby snacks while you're cooking. Delicious. So, here you have 2 lovely rolls. I'll just put them back into a tray like this. Just something that can go into the oven, basically, just when you want to heat them back up later. Give them a good seasoning of salt. And then just put them to one side. And now they're ready to go into the oven. Okay, now time to focus on the beef. So, this beef has been out, as I said, all day, air drying and just getting to room temperature. Now, what you want to do, you've got your pan on, it's nice and hot. Just rapeseed oil, just rub that in with one hand and season it with molten salt and go quite heavy. Crunching the salt in your fingers, just crumbling it together so it's a little bit finer, so it's not as chunky. As you can see, I've been very heavy on that salt. And then you want to go nice bit of pepper. Then in your pan, some veg oil, not too much, about that. Just going to turn this up a touch. You want this pan slightly smoking. You want it as really, not as hot as you can get it, but you want it nice and hot. Then you want to take your beef and turn it over. So that put the salt and the pepper side down. Just give it a little push. And don't touch it. Now, while it's in the pan, you want to season the other side. So a little bit of rapeseed oil. This just helps stick the salt and the pepper to the beef. Again, season it with salt and pepper. Now, put 1 knob of butter in. Don't touch it. Don't move that. I'm pushing it down slightly just to make sure that all of the surface area of the beef is touching the pan. But you don't want to start moving it up and down or moving it around the pan. Now the butter is starting to go really sort of dark. Turn this heat down a touch. It's number 7. Now, just lift the beef up and put it back down. What will happen is the butter will go underneath the beef. Help that colour. Now turn it over. And what you see, that salt has gone really nice and crispy with the pepper and help the beef colour. Lift it up, make sure the butter goes underneath the beef. Put it back again. Turn it over. After say a minute, give it another turn over. Now you can start to move it back a little bit. As you can see, really, really nice and crusty and golden brown. That's what you're looking for. You want to sear that meat. The reason why you sear meat is it basically acts as a protective layer, so it keeps all those lovely juices and the flavour inside. Now both sides are coloured. I'm just going to give this a little colour on the side. You'll notice that the butter might be slightly starting to go a little bit dark. Don't worry too much. We're going to get rid of it. So now put it down and do the other side. You're just searing the meat so less juices and flavour can escape. That's it. And then one more side. Be careful, it is quite hot. Now, once you've got that lovely sear, take that off. Pour this fat into a bowl, because we're going to discard that later. Scrape away some of the salt that's in there. Get rid of that. Put the pan back on. Put the beef back in. Now I'm turning this down to around number 7. Now I want to go in with a fair bit of butter. So I'd say, as you can see, that was 5 knobs of butter. Now, what you want to do is get this butter until it goes nice and golden brown. Now you see it's starting to go. Be careful when you do this because it spits. Put some time in and just back off a little bit. Now, you'll see that I'm tilting the pan sometimes. What that does, it takes it off the heat and it puts a bit of air into the butter, so it's regulating the butter so it doesn't burn. Turn this steak over. Now, you see that butter has gone nice and golden brown, it's gone really nice and foamy and nutty, and this thyme is infusing it. Now, what you want to do, put your thyme on top, and then you want to baste your steak. You do that by tilting the pan towards you so the butter forms a pool at the bottom, and then you just spoon it over, and you're spooning it over that thyme, which is then infusing the beef and flavouring it. And then, as you can see, I'm tilting this the whole way because it's regulating the heat, and there's enough heat in the pan to keep the butter foaming, but it's not going to burn it. And after a while, put it back, take the time off, turn the steak over, and repeat the process. Okay, once you've done that, I'm going to put this into the oven along with your carrots. I'm going to put this in for 4 minutes and then we're going to check it. Okay, so now you should have the beef in the oven along with the carrots at 180 degrees. Yep. So we put the beef in for 4 minutes. I put a 4-minute timer on. In that time, you want to get your boulangere potato that's been sitting on the side. Take the tin foil off. Just double check. When you take it out of the oven, you might want to do this as well. Just double check, I've already done this. You just want to put a skewer into it and it's gone in with complete ease, which means all those potatoes are cooked. As you can see, it's really lovely caramelized. You can see it's soaked up the fat. So those potatoes are really juicy and like soft and lovely. At this point, you now want to get your Parmesan and a microplane. If you don't have a microplane, you can use a fine grater or basically a fine grater. Now, you just want to go nice and heavy. This is about 60 grams piece of Parmesan. You don't have to use it all. Depends how much you like cheese. Just keep going. I'm going to leave it there. A little bit of cracked pepper on top. Now you want to put that into the oven with everything else. Once you've just put your boulangere potato in, just what you want to do is you want to just turn the steak over. And then the steak goes back in. So you've just put that in, turn the steak over, give it a close for another 2 minutes. So now it's been 2 minutes. I'm just gonna, if you've got a temperature probe, just put it into the middle, into the thickest part of the meat. And what we're looking for is about 56, 57 degrees. So this is now 54, so we're nearly there. So I'm just gonna leave that for 1 more minute, and then we're gonna take that out to rest. So now the minute's up, I'm just going to take the beef out, turn the oven up to 200, just to get a nice glaze on those boulangere potatoes. Take the beef out. Now there's 2 ways of checking beef. Well, there's lots of ways. With your hand, obviously the firmer it is, the more well done it is. And the softer it is, the more rarer it is. But there's a way, so there's 2 ways. You put your probe in, make sure it's the right temperature. So you're looking for about 54 to 57 degrees for medium rare, and then you want to take it out because don't forget it will carry on cooking. There's another way of doing it, and that's the skewer, the magic skewer. Put it in, leave it in there for around 5 to 10 seconds. Take it out, be careful, but put it on your lip. And if it's hot, it's pretty ready. I'm gonna leave that to a touch longer. The reason why you put it on your lip is because your lip's very sensitive and you can feel it really well. Now, I'm going to take this out onto a plate and put all of this thyme just on top of the beef. And then I'm going to pour a little bit of the butter, not all of it because it is a bit too much, because this is going to go into our sauce later. And then just leave that like that to rest. Now, a little trick with when you're cooking meat and resting meat, you always want to rest your meat. If you imagine that I put you into a hot oven, you'd clench up and be like, oh, this is horrible. And then when I got you out, you go, and you relax, right? That's exactly what this piece of beef is doing. It's got to relax. So all these juices are just going to go through the meat nice and evenly. So it's like rare, medium rare throughout, so it's not sort of overcooked on the outside and rare in the middle. It's just going to kind of all even out lovely and sort of become friends. Anyway, so leave that to rest, and now we're just waiting for the carrots and the boulangere potatoes to cook. So the beef's been resting for about 2.5 minutes. So I'm just going to take off the thyme. Now, just roll it in its own juices. Just put that moisture kind of back onto it, just so it doesn't dry out on the outside. Then turn it around the way, basically turn it around so it rests the other way around. And that's it. And rest that for another 2.5 minutes. So while the beef is resting for the last 2.5 minutes, we can check on the Boulangere potatoes and the carrots. So just come over to the oven. So first of all, take the carrots out. And I'm just looking at the Boulangere potatoes. What you want is a nice golden brown crust, but you don't want it to burn. So if it's going too dark, pull it out. If not, leave it in there. So that can be left in there for a little longer. So the carrots now, take the tin foil off. Just keep that just in case the carrots aren't ready. Skewer, the thickest part of the carrot, it should go through with a tiny bit of resistance. That means that the carrot's slightly al dente is what we want, and these are perfect. So now I'm just going to put these into that lovely beef juice. Now, just tilt the plate so the beef juice goes onto the carrots. Give them a nice roll in there, because that's all flavour there, don't get rid of that. And then put them onto the chopping board. If they're quite hot, use a spoon. Beef to one side. And all you want to do with these carrots, I leave the top on, straight down the middle. Be careful because they're hot, to the base. And you've got these beautiful, lovely, sweet carrots. So that, stick them back onto the plate. Little drizzle of rapeseed oil or olive oil. Just a little sprinkling of molten salt. Now at this point, put your cabbage into the oven to heat back up. So I'll just show you the Boulangere potatoes at this stage. So you've got this lovely golden brown colour there. That's what you want. So you can leave that just to set up now. All this here doesn't matter at all because you're just going to scoop in there and it's not going to be dark underneath. That's perfect as it is. This cabbage juice, just put that onto a nice low heat. And then we'll just wait 2 minutes while the cabbage heats up in the oven. Okay, so while your cabbage is heating up in the oven, your beef is now fully rested, your carrots are cut and on the plate, your Boulangere potato is out, ready to serve, and your cabbage sauce is on a low heat, just slowly heating up. So, first and foremost, take away your thyme. You don't want that. Roll the beef again, one last time. Put the beef onto the chopping board. Now, you want to roll these carrots in that beef. Glaze them up, look at that. Lovely. You want to get cabbage out of the oven. So the first thing to go onto the plate will be carrot. So you just want to get one of those lovely carrots. Just onto the side, just slightly off the centre. So there's 3 lovely carrots there. Take 1 roll of cabbage. That can just sit there like that. Now, time to carve the star of the show. So the beef. Now, a long carving knife is non-serrated, so it's long. To carve meat, it's a long blade, it's better. And you don't cut down straight, you cut at a slight angle, and you go, I'm gonna go the width of the steak, not the length. So like this. So you just carve like this. This is where you find out if you've cooked it right. And yep, it's absolutely perfect. So I don't like to cut it too thin. Cut it about 1 centimetre thick on the slices. Slice all the way through. I'll just turn it around so you guys can see. Basically, you then can lay your steak out like this. Then just take a few slices onto the plate. And take some of the cabbage juice. Just with a spoon. Just pour that over the cabbage and into the middle of the plate. Just so that sits in a little pool. And there you have it, roasted ribeye 2 with braised Hispi cabbage, Boulangere potatoes and roasted carrots.
Okay, so we're ready to plate the final dessert. So we've got the different components that have been pre-prepared by us. This is a chocolate cremo, so a nice in between like a ganache and a custard, so a little bit lighter than a ganache, made with really nice chocolate from Pump Street Bakery in Suffolk. A little bit of creme fraiche, just for a nice little bit of acidity to cut through the richness and the sweetness of the chocolate. And then for texture, we've got this crunchy feuillatine that you made earlier, which we're just going to chop up a little bit. So I'm going to start by chopping up the feuillatine. And we want to have like clusters, so we don't want to chop it up too much. It's probably into nice little kind of cubey shapes. And this is just going to give the texture on the dessert. And also add like an element of nuttiness, roundness, so something like that. Maybe break it up a little bit more. It's kind of like a crumble. It's kind of like a fancy rocky road. Okay. There we go. So that's the crumble. So now I'm going to take a nice scoop of the chocolate cremo, and we call this a quenelle, and it's like an egg-shaped scoop. And in order to do that, I need a nice hot spoon, and you just put the spoon in, push it back a little bit, and then just bring it to the corner of the tub, you can see, and then just drop it on the plate like this. And then next to that, a nice dollop of creme fraiche. And then we're just going to sprinkle the crumble around the side. A little bit of sea salt on top. And we're good to go. There we have it. Pump Street chocolate cremo with creme fraiche and praline feuillatine.